morning, world. Thank you. That's Steve Rao, the host of Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. We welcome you live here today from wherever you are in the United States or the world. And we greet you live. I greet you live from North Carolina, the eighth largest state in the United States of America. Today, we're going to talk real quickly. There was a Russian attack, 12 killed in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine continues, as well as the war in Israel. And as we get down to wind down the year, Maine has now said that Donald Trump cannot be on the ballot, although Michigan Supreme Court has overruled that initiative. And there's been some rumors of this happening in North Carolina, but it won't happen because of the Republican legislature and a Republican Supreme Court. With that being said, as we wind down the year 2023, it's been such a busy year. Lots of highlights that we can talk about. We celebrated the anniversary of AI and ChatGPT in November. We saw Israel war begin. We saw the war in Ukraine continue. We have what we call a recession in democracy, as we see many, many countries falling. In fact, Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela just ordered a military strike against, I think, Guyana, and all kinds of things going on. But dictatorships rising all around the world, instability in democratic regimes, and instability in the American political system. As you know, we look back to Kevin McCarthy winning with 15 votes and then getting ousted by Matt Gaetz, and now we have a new speaker, Mike Johnson. We have a presidential race heating up here in a few weeks. We'll be in 2024 next week, and the race is on, and it's coming down to Donald Trump versus Nikki Haley, it looks like, in New Hampshire. With that being said, the economy. We are looking at the economy as we look around the world, and it looks like we could be on the brink of a global recession. Interest rates higher than normal. Inflation has tapered off, but still there a bit. Gas prices continue to be high. And much of the COVID money that has been spent, the $1 trillion, is being spent up. And so higher interest rates will have an effect on consumers and the cost of money, the cost of capital, the cost of running a business. So all of these things, I know you highlighted a lot. We lost Rosalind Carter. We lost Norman Lear. We've got all kinds of things we're going to talk about this year. I just hit the highlights. So we're going to bring you in. I probably forgot a few things. I didn't have my notes today. But it's been a hell of a year in 2023. And we look forward to a very, very bright, prosperous 2024. But it's going to be an exciting year and politically, get out your popcorn because it's going to be something to watch. And with that being said, we're going to have with us today Nick Paladiva, Mark Lee, Adam Lamparello, and the team. I'm here till about 10:30, but want to welcome you all to our show. Adam, thank you so much for being here. And I threw a lot out there, guys. It's really kind of an informal today. I mean, what I'd like to do is just spend a few minutes maybe highlighting some things that are going on this year that we would like to see, right? Anyway, and Mark, real quickly, could you find out when the unrelated to anything I just said, the Kwanzaa event in Cary yesterday, what time it starts and where?
I can find out, but it should be in downtown Cary, if I remember correctly. It's at one of the centers that's there in the downtown
art center, but it doesn't say the time online. So
yeah, I can find that out, but I'm pretty sure that it's.
I was going to just monitor on my way to the.
No problem at all. Hey, Adam, just really quickly and all in that space, and it was actually one of the questions that I was going to ask and everything, but we've now got two states. There are only 50, so there are two states that have now said that Trump can't be on the ballot. I did hear that there is the possibility that Virginia may be added to the list and everything. So is there any worry in the Trump camps from what you're hearing? Not saying that you're part of the Trump camp, but any worries of that being an impact on the elections? Because we're now, and I do know that both of those cities are definitely very liberal and everything, but both Colorado and Maine have said that Trump can't be on the ballot and everything. There might be a few other states that will join this campaign to have Trump off the ballot. But your thoughts around this?
We can't hear you.
We don't hear you.
It's a disgrace, and I can assure you that the Trump campaign is not worried. As an attorney, I can tell you the Colorado Supreme Court's decision was atrocious and will be overturned likely unanimously by the Supreme Court. The Maine Secretary of State's decision violated due process in every fundamental sense of the word. And I find it funny that these liberal states and liberal politicians who have been preaching about the importance of democracy for so long are using every weapon at their disposal, whether it's through faulty indictments, ridiculous Supreme Court decisions, or unilateral Secretary of State decisions to take a candidate off the ballot. It's hypocrisy at its worst. What we should all be hoping for in 2024 is that Donald Trump is on the ballot and that the people can decide. Now, I didn't vote for Donald Trump, not the first time, not the second time, but I do believe that democracy works best when the people have a choice and when neither courts nor politicians are violating due process, misconstruing the 14th Amendment, and trying to do something that they otherwise fear they cannot do through democratic means.
I'll have to jump in and agree.
Nick, your take on this, or you're a lawyer as well?
Oh, yeah, and I have to agree with Adam, for the first time, because usually I disagree with 99% of the stuff he says for a lot of different reasons. But I have to agree with him on this one. If you look at what happened with Maine, it was the Secretary of State who was judge, jury, and delivering the execution. There was no hearing. There was no trial. There was no nothing except the Secretary of State jumping in unilaterally in her own infinite wisdom without having all the facts, because I saw some more facts today, which I wasn't sure of. And I wanted it to be produced that he did tell people to go down many, many times and peacefully protest and not break the law and don't create violence. All that was omitted by the media. Okay, so what happened is the Secretary of State, and I know there are people, some on this panel, want to say, Trump is guilty, now let's go find out the reasons why. But that's not how our legal system works. Our legal system is supposed to look at both sides, and they didn't. Now, what does it do for people like me? And I'm like, Adam, I did not vote for Trump first time. I didn't vote for him second time. I'm considering him as a candidate this time for this reason. It's what the Democrats are doing. And I'm going like, you know what? The USA deserves Trump again, because the thing is of what they have been doing and the stunts that they're pulling. So yeah, he's now a consideration for me, where before he wasn't. But after all these stunts, yes. When I go, my wife is totally against him. She'll never vote for him. She's like the Secretary of State. But that doesn't matter. He's attacking people like me. And the Democratic Party is attacking people like me. That's great. Good. I'll vote for the other side.
Any thoughts, Jacoby? Because like I said, we got a second state that has joined the fray. So any thoughts?
So just to point out, Colorado Supreme Court leans Republican more so than it does lean Democrat. Or liberal. So I love how that was omitted from both Adam and Nick's comments. Also, what was also omitted from Nick's comments and Adam's comments is that the Secretary of State held a trial. She was obligated to hold a trial. Nick, it did happen. Look it up. So
both your statements,
she held a trial, and she wrote her assessment. These things get omitted because this is where, again, why I always talk about honesty. We cannot omit these things; those are facts. And then what her assessment is one of the toughest assessments that the Trump team will have to overcome, because everything is based in the Constitution itself. So arguing that this is politically based is true, because if he does not, if they overturn these things, then it becomes political, because the only reason that it's overturned is based in politics and not actually rooted in the actual law. So therefore, him being off the ballot will give fuel to the flame of those who come up with this idea that they're attacking Trump or they're attacking me personally. They're not. We're here because Trump actually broke the law. He has 91 cases against him, 4 indictments, so on and so forth. But we tend to forget those things. The man is a crook. Everybody around him has been arrested, has been pleading guilty. trying to make plea deals so they don't go to jail. All these things, we just don't want to admit to because we play this political game. And yes, in politics, Lee wrote not one guilty verdict. Yeah, sexual abuse. He got that. So we omit and forget these things. Even
It's a civil trial.
yes, and did he lose that trial? Did he lose that trial?
In part, yes.
Yes.
And he was acquitted of rape.
Yes. The answer is yes. He lost that trial.
And he was acquitted of rape.
He lost that trial, Adam. Adam,
Okay.
you're not winning this argument. It's documented. He lost the trial. So again, we forget these things. We overlook these things just for politics.
But in a larger sense, as we look back at the year, the one thing I'll say is that I think that the Democrats are so focused on, it's like, I was a nationally ranked tennis player. My coach always taught me, don't spend all your time looking at the opponent, look at your own game. And so, rather than focusing on what they're going to do to stimulate the economy, to put people back to work, working through the foreign policy crisis that we have, they're spending all their time going after Trump. And I think it's going to backfire because it's just going to infuriate his base. They're going to turn out. They're even saying Black Americans are not going to vote in large numbers in the 2024. They've been impressed with what's going on with Biden. And so I don't know, that's what I'm hearing, but underperformance in that community isn't going to do the Democrats any favors, particularly in swing states like North Carolina, Michigan, and let's not forget the Muslim vote. And they're all turning. I mean, I know a lot of Muslims that are voting for Trump. And I mean, think about that. If that happens in Michigan and North Carolina, I mean, 4 or 5 states, Trump wins.
Democrats have preached democracy ad nauseum and engaged in the most undemocratic coup that I've ever seen. You actually have a panelist on this show. You have a panelist on this show who said the Secretary of State held a trial. You can't.
Yes.
And also,
You
another
really
thing he said that wasn't true.
And I don't really believe any further response is needed to this nonsense. If you believe in democracy, you believe in choice.
Okay, another thing he said that wasn't true. All seven justices.
Just to point out, in terms of
were appointed by
Democratic governors.
All of
just to
that
point
out.
So
what happens is
just to point out the facts when we talk about or coup.
Maybe I should let my prom date from 30 years ago decide who gets in the election
you
or
have
not.
The leading candidate
Who
literally sent fake electors. He literally had January 6th riot planned. Literally,
show me a verdict that says that. Show me a verdict that says that.
Hold on, let me finish.
It's not
he
true.
literally had the January 6th people talking about
Supreme Court of
hanging
Colorado
white
is
kids.
Republican.
He
It's not
literally lost a trial
No,
on
it's not
sexual abuse. He's the leading candidate. So we're championing a crook with 91 cases, 4 indemnits.
Steve, you're a Democrat. If this is part of the Democratic Party, the future of your party is in deep trouble.
Factual information. Things that you like to
agree.
ignore. Factual information.
No, your facts.
No,
are
it's
wrong.
your opinion that you confuse as fact.
If my facts are wrong, are there 4 indictments
Facts are
against
wrong.
Trump?
You're
Are there
dead
4
wrong.
indictments
Let's
against
start off
Trump?
with your first
Yes, an
fact.
indictment is an
Are there
accusation,
4
not a
indictments?
conviction.
No, you said my facts are wrong. You said my facts.
You guys are making Vladimir Putin look like the beacon of freedom.
4 indictments against Trump?
Let's start off with the.
Yes, that's a
Jacoby, the
fact.
problem with
Are
your
there
facts
90
is so many
plus
that are
charges
wrong
against Trump?
that we have to go
Are there
through each
90
one of
plus charges against Trump? That's
Okay.
a fact. So my
Let's
facts are not
go through-
incorrect.
Hey, hold on a second. Hey, Nick,
Let's go
hold on a second. Nick,
first
you told me
fact.
before we get to Sasha, because I definitely want to hear about Ukraine and what's
You
going
sound
on
like
there.
Joseph
We got that
McCarthy.
show and everything. But hold on a second. Hey, hold on a second. Both Nick and Jacoby. Quick
Fact
question
number
for both
one,
of you,
was
and this is
wrong.
actually for
Fact
Adam as
number
well,
two,
and
it
even
was
for
no
Steve.
crime.
Hold
You're
on a
making
second.
it-
Hey, hold on a second. Quick question. This
Great.
is for Steve as
Make up
well
your facts.
and everything.
What else? do you
One of the things that frustrates me, and yes, Adam, it may be sour grapes, and I'll tell you why it may be sour grapes in a minute and everything. But how often do we allow these people to stay in office? Because you just mentioned that the prom date could be 30 years and everything. Our Secretary of State, the Secretary of State in North Carolina, literally ran against Mom, and she beat Mom and everything. That's why I said it might be sour grapes and everything. But she's been in office since, I think that was like 99 that they ran.
That's
and
right,
everything,
yeah.
and all along those lines. So it has definitely been in office for a number of years that Elaine Marshall has had this position, and there's been a number of folks that have had it in other states as well. So I'm just curious, whether it's the Congress or whether it's the Secretary of State's jobs, do we need to? Because that was a conversation that came up in the year of 2023 as well. Do we need to have term limits? Because I'm thinking some of these jobs, whether it's Secretary of State, whether Secretary of Labor, there are some people that have been in those jobs for a long time. And I will admit that
I believe, and even though
In 1990,
even though Lynn Marshall is my friend, I do believe that in North Carolina, the Council of State offices, there's a term limit on the governor, lieutenant governor. So I don't know why the legislature wouldn't impose term limits on the other Council of State members so that others can run and provide a different experience. But then again, the experience, when you look at Elaine Marshall, she's been a great Secretary of State, and and it's really more business formation. But some of these other offices have been there a long time. So anyway, that's my talk. But
so
I do
you
think
guys
term
are
limits-
arguing in favor of term limits so that we can have more choices, but you have a Secretary of State giving us less choice by unilaterally, as judge, jury, and executioner, throwing Trump off the ballot, and a Colorado Supreme Court, all appointed by Democratic governor, doing the same thing.
It was done legally.
That's true. And this is a fact.
Jacoby wants to convict before a trial. You're guilty until proven innocent in Jacoby's world, and I think that leads to more injustice than you
You
could ever
cannot
possibly
argue
imagine.
the fact. It was
Okay,
done
because
legally.
we can't, but we can argue with lies, Jacoby. You said it was Republican Supreme Court of Colorado.
Who's the head of the
go
Supreme
to the
Court of
internet
Colorado?
and type up
Is
Colorado
the
Supreme
Republican?
Court.
Is there a
Because I have a
Republican
fact
leading
check.
at the head of Colorado?
I fact checked you.
Supreme
The
Court.
point is not their party affiliation. It's that no reasonable constitutional scholar, of which I am one, would ever support this interpretation of Clause 3 of the 14th Amendment.
Here's the fact.
You don't seem to care about those facts.
Is it a
All
Republican that
seven
leads
judges on the court
head
You
of
seem to
Republicans
care about
Colorado?
fashion more than facts.
Is
Here's
it
the fact.
a head
All
Republican?
seven
Is it a
were appointed
Republican
by
who leads the
Democrats.
head of Supreme Court in
That's-
Colorado? Yes, that's a fact, Nick. Sorry,
All
you lost this
seven.
again.
I hate to say it. Here's what it says. And I have to get through the noise.
It was
Here's what
4-3. That's the way That's the way it went. The head of the actual Supreme Court voted with the three Democrats that are there.
Here's a fact. I know you have a hard time doing it, but anyone can fact check on the internet. Here's what it says. Quote, all 7 judges on the Colorado Supreme Court were appointed by Democratic governors. Period.
So a Democrat can't appoint Republicans. We
If
understand.
anybody
that.
ever wants to know what an LSD trip is like, just
Obama
watch the show.
couldn't appoint
First 20
anybody
minutes.
who was
Hey,
Republican.
my final question before I leave, just real quickly, Sasha, guys, but let's get, Sasha, I've got to take off, but
He's in Canada. He doesn't have
continue to talk about the year in review. I'll see you guys in 2024. I gave you some events to talk about. Real quickly, Sasha, what's up with this Russian attack
Russia.
Russia attack. Yeah,
on Ukraine? 12 days.
Russia attack.
Can we please not be disrespectful to Mr. Putin, please?
Why?
I mean, this show has been so disrespectful. It's appalling.
It's not this show. It's the other show. You missed.
As Russia seeks to preserve its country against this eastward expansion of NATO, such disrespect and rudeness.
Hey, you know what? We should ask
Russia
everything.
Western expansion of Ukraine. Why is it real? The expansion of NATO is or perceived threat to Russia is it's a nonsense. Now the invasion of Ukraine is the real one. But interestingly enough, as I said already, maybe on another show, that this is just repetition of what's happened to Soviet Union in the 80s as a result of its invasion in Afghanistan. The Soviet Union ceased to exist as a result of not only this, but many other things. But this one was one of main things. And what Soviet Union lost 15,000 people in 10 years. In Ukraine, the Russia lost 330,000 people in less than 2 years, and there's losing at least 1,000 people every single day. It was yesterday, it was day before yesterday, it was 2 weeks ago, it was a month ago. 1,055,000, 35,000, 68, or so on. It's all documented. And this is the reality of the war criminal, complete idiot, Mr. Vladimir Vladimirovich.
That is so rude. I cannot
Okay.
believe this.
Oh, it's a truth. This is the truth. It doesn't matter whether it's rude or not. It's a truth.
Well,
And
folks,
he's
I
a
want to wish each and every one of you a happy New Year. See you in 2024, and it's been a hell of a year.
Happy
and
New
we're
Year.
gonna have a lot- Yeah, happy New Year, everybody. We're gonna have a good year in 2024, and looking forward to the presidential race heating up, and lots of good stuff to talk about. So thank you all so much.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Oh, just another little fact that I want to throw at Adam's way about the expansion of NATO. In 1990, Putin, when he just got to become the president of USSR, asked President Clinton that if Russia could join NATO. So don't give me all this trash about NATO.
I love how you guys trash Russia when you come from a country that invaded Iraq and killed over 300,000 Iraqis, went into Vietnam and raped and tortured people. You sure have the moral high ground. Mr. Putin, I apologize on behalf of this panel for this rudeness, especially during the holiday season.
How you can compare the United States, the real superpower, to Russia, which is nonsense. It's complete nonsense. People, half of the population of Russia is going to toilet to outhouse. They don't have
Tell that to the Iraqis who died after a war was waged under false pretenses.
Listen, if you badmouth US, it doesn't help Mr. Putin. For him being a moron, regardless what US does, it doesn't help Mr. Putin at all. So thank you for mentioning all this, but it doesn't help Mr. Putin. I'm surprised, Adam, that you don't get that.
Hey, Sasha, one of the things
What
I was
I'm
curious about,
trying
brought
to-
it up on, hold on a second, Sasha, I was curious about this because we brought it up on another show, which you weren't here on and everything, but apparently, and we talk about social media influencers, but as I mentioned on yesterday, he went very heavy against the social media influencers because apparently they had like some big nearly naked party there in Russia, and apparently the government of Russia clamped their hands down, even though they admitted that there is a big war that they're fighting as well. And some people were critical of the fact that he was clamping down on quote unquote influencers while they were fighting a war against Ukraine. But I forgot that you were not on the show, but I was just wondering your thoughts around this and if you've been following that story, because apparently there's been a heavy clamp down on several social media influencers, including a Russian rapper who decided to place a sock in a strategically placed location and everything. But I was just wondering if you have been following this story and if you've had any thoughts around Russia clamping down on social media influencers.
Well, according to Adam, Putin has the right to do anything what he wants inside his country, and not only his country, but some other countries. And actually, all I'd like to mention is that Putin is the absolute evil that exists today in the world, because it unites all other states like Iran, like China, like North Korea, and everything what's happening now. All these wars in Ukraine and attack on Israel on October 7th, this is all we have to thank Mr. Putin. And until he will be in power, I don't know how much he has, how long he's going to live. Unfortunately, he's going to be in power all his life. He's not going to be replaced by anybody. So maybe he has yet another 20 years to live. It's too bad for everybody.
Adam thinks that would be a wonderful idea if he lives for another 20 years and all along those lines. And social media influencers are apparently people that are able to influence thought from around the world and around the country through their social media algorithms and all along those lines. So they might be doing it on TikTok. They might be doing
about Putin. I want to hear what Jatovy has, because
Jatovy is not going to be disrespectful to Russia.
Jatovy
is going to be fair and balanced.
I want to hear what Jatovy has to say about President Putin. I want to know his opinion, because he gets his facts from somewhere I'm not really sure of, and so he might have some facts he can enlighten us, since we live in a sea of ignorance, and he can give us a fountain of knowledge. So maybe he has some facts on President.
I mean, yes, Putin is. Sasha's spot on. Sasha's right about Putin. Putin's a horrible person. He is a dictator. He does silence his people and keep his people in line by putting out false propaganda just to keep them in line.
Like the Maine Secretary of State, the Colorado Supreme Court, and the 4 indictments. Interesting.
Just to point out, again, just as you guys keep trying hard with this, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Colorado was a registered Republican in 2020. So please, you lost the argument, so move on. The Secretary of State in Maine held a trial, which she was legally obligated to do. She made an assessment. Sorry, you lost the argument. Just like you're losing the argument.
An assessment instead of a court. There's a thing called due process, right?
It is sad how, again, you want to preach freedom, yet you want authoritarian rule. You talk about
what you're advocating for is precisely the definition of authoritarian rule. The Secretary of State can assess people's rights and convict them without a trial and due process. I'm surprised you don't like Mr. Putin. You sound like him.
Even by your own demented analogy about the Secretary of State in Maine, Putin doesn't give you a choice. Putin tells you that he is the leader. Putin tells you that nobody else can vote. You can vote for nobody else. So again, you're crying hard about the Secretary of State in Maine holding a legal trial while praising somebody who doesn't give you a choice. The irony in that is so thick.
Especially when the person holding the trial is also the decision maker.
Sasha, hold on a second. Sasha, I've got a great idea. You sent me sometime back a videotape, I believe it was, of Anthony Blinken playing the sax or something along those lines and everything. It was one of our national politicians, and he was doing some great music and everything. And Adam is saying that Putin has a beautiful voice. So maybe we need to start a world leaders quartet and all along those lines. And we can have Anthony Blinken and Putin and a number of these others that have these skill sets that can perform together. Maybe that'll be a way that we can have peace if we're going to go like the We Are the World routine and everything. So what is your thoughts? Can we get, because you sent me this video, I know it was several months back and everything. What do you think of this notion of some of our world leaders with talent being able to come together and do a We Are the World type song? Because apparently I've never heard Adam. I mean, I've never heard Mr. Putin sing, but Adam thinks that he's got a voice comparable to Pavarotti and everything, but I've never heard the man sing.
Putin has many talents. You forget that he's also a fantastic hockey player who's scoring 11 goals, at least 11 goals every game. And he is also a soccer fan. He loves chess. And he's a man of many talents. And singing is one of his great talents. There's no doubt about that. But overall, I don't think there's any politicians as talented as Putin is. And that allows him to stay in power for the next 55 years.
Sasha, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
what
sure.
makes him so talented? Because I could tell too that he's extremely talented and extremely good at his persuasive abilities. What do you think? Is that just innate, or is it because of his KGB experiment? What is it that makes him so good at what he does?
First of all, it's very important that he could survive his childhood, because in his early years he was beaten up several times a day, starting with his stepfather, and then kids at school. They just hated him passionately, and it's a miracle that he survived. Of course, the history could be very different. He wouldn't survive, and I'm not sure if it would be such a great tragedy. Nobody would even remember.
By the way, for the record, Adam, there was no trial in Maine. Okay, Mark.
That's correct. There was no trial.
He said there was a trial. There was no trial in Maine. What there was an administrative hearing. Now, Jacoby may not know the difference. I know he's not here, between an administrative hearing, which Adam and I know, than a trial. There was no trial.
But
Thank you, Nick.
He was clearing it up, because the thing is, it's just like, yes, all 7 were appointed by Democrats. 4 of them that voted were registered Democrats. That was the fact. He doesn't want to show the facts. He's showing what he believes the fact to be. And this is a problem that people like me, who are independent, even though I'm registered Democrat, are having with the Democratic Party right now. And why, like I said, I'm going to give Trump a very serious second look, and is because, not because Trump's so good. I like Adam. I didn't vote for him 2 times, but the Democrats are bad. And the thing is, when they pull stunts like this and other stunts, you start saying, okay, you got to look somewhere else for your leader, because that is not what you're looking for. And you do not like to be, it's just not true. The Colorado Supreme Court was Democratic. It was 4 of them were Democrats. That is a fact. You can go look it up, Jacoby. By the way, everybody who's listening to this, we have thousands of viewers, they can go look it up. It's all on the internet. And there's good source material. Fact number 1. Fact number 2, there was no trial. It was a hearing by the Secretary of State and attorneys. I've been to administrative hearings. Those are not trials. So there's a big difference between a jury trial that did not take place in Maine. For that reason,
Now that, Jacoby, is what's called honesty.
Wait, hold on. Honesty is she held a legitimate hearing, so she made a judgment based off the hearing. So again, when you first stated that she didn't hold anything, she just made some judgment up. So again, if we're talking about being honest, yes, I'll correct my terminology and use hearing rather than trial.
Right.
So she legitimately held a legal proceeding to make her judgment, which is that hearing. And then on top of that, again, people can look it up, Nick. Who is the Chief Justice of the Colorado Supreme Court? Is he Democrat or Republican?
He's probably Republican, but
An administrative proceeding does not have the same rights or protections as a trial. And that is what happened in Maine. Those are facts, and that's honest.
So the Chief Justice, who voted along with 3 Democrats, made the decision. The Chief Justice, who's Republican. So again, when we're trying to make these lies up and point out and omit these facts that everybody keeps talking about, is there that people can look up, which they legitimately can. Why do we omit it when it is a fact that points out that, oh, it's not just Democrats? It's not Democrats. Trump. For example, all the witnesses in every single one of these trials, or all these witnesses in these 91 cases against Trump, are Republican, not Democrats. All the individuals that these judges that Trump took these false cases of he stole the election that the election was stolen, he took those.
You do realize how easy it is to get an indictment, right? There's no defense when you seek an indictment. That's why they say you can indict a ham sandwich. It's held due process in a trial before you single-handedly conclude that he's guilty and should be removed from the ballot by Democrats and somebody who holds an administrative hearing where there's no due process rights.
Notice how you just jump straight to Democrats. Again, yes, the Democrats have an issue right now because the fact of the matter is the messaging. For example, and I will go back to the Joe Rogan example. Joe Rogan, again, just in a show just a few days ago, was coming down hard on Joe Biden when he said that Joe Biden made this this gaffe, and he should not even be president because he made this stupid remark about how they used how airports were used in the Revolutionary War. Then Joe Rogan was corrected because Joe Rogan was actually shown the clip where Joe Biden was talking about how Trump said it. And then when that was brought to light, you know what Joe Rogan did? Oh, well, Trump just made a mistake. So instead of us doing this whole, hey, we're going to do this double standard because the messaging from the right is just so great, which honestly, that's the best thing they do. Their policies are trash, many of them, but they do great messaging. And that messaging is what sticks. Because if you notice, all the messaging right now is about, hey, Democrats did this to them. No, let's point out the facts. The Chief Justice of Colorado.
Because they did. And that's why you have a backlash.
The Chief Justice of Colorado who made the deciding vote was Republican.
It doesn't matter what his party affiliation is.
Hold on a second. Quick question for both of you and everything. But kind of Steve alluded to it earlier, and I do agree with something you said, Jacoby, that the messaging is horrible because if you look at the statistics, everything that I'm seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sasha, but everything that I'm seeing, the kind of the markers of the economy are actually doing well, but nobody in the Democratic Party is pointing to this because it's like the unemployment rate like around 3.9% and all along those lines. And there are a couple of other markers that are actually doing well, but in terms of messaging, they're not even putting that message out there. And if the economy is going to be
the messaging, Mark. It's not the messaging. It is the intangibles. People want to look to their president and they want to see a leader. What they see in Biden is falling asleep at a funeral and who can't string a coherent sentence together. And those intangibles are what are affecting his approval rating.
That's a lie.
That's a lie. Okay. I'm glad you're not the Secretary of State. God knows I'd be in the fucking
he did not fall asleep at the funeral. It was a Fox News propaganda push. And then on top of that, they corrected Fox News on that propaganda push, yet it's still out there by people like you because when you say the
Biden is a terrible leader. He does not have the intangibles. He's a terrible leader. He's a terrible speaker. And he is not mentally acute enough for the presidency. People know that, and most importantly, Democrats do. That's why they're trying to get him to not run, and that's why Trump's ahead. And Trump's ahead in all the polls in the rest of the states, not because Biden's not a good leader, but because of the Colorado Supreme Court, the main decision, and the indictments that have no basis in law.
Trump is quoting Hitler.
And the Democrats can't do anything but
Trump is quoting Hitler in the middle of a war in Israel.
Before the Supreme Court of the United States, Adam, are you licensed before the Supreme Court of the United States? Just a question.
Yes, I've written 10 amicus briefs before the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay, I'm licensed before the Supreme Court of the United States too, and I took a case to the Supreme Court of the United States. Now I'll ask Jacoby, since you listen to guys like Joe Rogan, I don't even know who he is. I don't listen to him. Is he licensed before the Supreme Court of the United States?
Trump quoted Hitler.
Answer the question.
In the middle of a war in Israel.
I don't think Joe Rogan is a lawyer, so Joe Rogan is the immediate person. So Joe Rogan's not a lawyer.
About this guy, okay? You have two
because of the influence that he has and the same messaging that you two are pushing out.
I don't want to
listen to the thing that you guys are afraid to listen to and acknowledge.
I don't even know who Joe Rogan is.
But hold on a second. That comes back to what I asked earlier. Hold on. That comes back to what I asked earlier, which is that's what I asked earlier. Is there a number of people that have social influence? Do y'all know who Sean Hannity is? And definitely that's somebody that's more on the right side as well. But Sean Hannity.
I don't listen to him either because he doesn't make any sense.
Either. Is he licensed before the Supreme Court of the United States?
So my question is, how many lawyers that are listening are actually the ones that people are listening to? That's my question to you. Is the influencer that unfortunately people are listening to?
And this is why we don't listen. Nick, your argument is, I'm
from the chief interrupter who says we don't listen.
Hold on, Adam. Let me finish the point because you finished about 5 minutes too. Now you're yelling out, I'm licensed before the Supreme Court. So therefore, Therefore, I am a bigger influencer and I have more influence on the actual populace than anybody else. That's your argument.
I never said that.
I never said that either. But go on.
So then why do you not care what an influencer or people who are legitimately influencing the populace, why do you not care what they're saying?
Because
because your argument betrays a very, very misinformed view of the judicial process and of due process and of the rights that
you
people are
didn't even
entitled
listen.
to
You went
when they
down
are
some
accused
path.
of things
You
like
went down
insurrection.
some
And you want
path,
to disregard
Adam.
the Constitution
Some
because it's
path.
convenient. And I believe in the Constitution, not
Some
convenience.
path because
not a media influencer. Media
you went down
influencers
some path
do not
again.
determine-
Why
It's funny how
do you not
honesty goes
care
by the wayside
about
when it's not consistent with your
Why
personal
do you not
predilection.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Why
I got a
do you
question. Hold on a
not
second.
care
Media
about
Joey,
what
Joey, hold on a second. Because I got a
the
question
people
for
that
Sasha.
influence
I got a question for
actually
Sasha
are
that's in
I don't
these
give a rat's for
same
about it.
philosophies and everything. Isn't one of the biggest influencers out there the person that we're arguing about? Because part of what his success was, and part of the reason that he became a success, was because he was a influencer on Apprentice. He was an influencer on a number of his deals and everything. So isn't in what you're saying that you're arguing against, isn't that what really got Trump to his rise in popularity, was being an influencer?
Yeah, I would say it did. But
So
the thing
then
is,
why do you not care what he says?
because there's a difference, and this is really hard, but you have to look at, there's three different branches of government. There's legislative, executive, and judicial. He is not part of the judicial branch. Two of the people that are sitting on this panel are part of the judicial branch. Two of the people on this panel are officers of the court. Two of the people on this panel did suffer many years going through law school and understand the basics of due process and what a trial is versus administrative hearing. In both instances, there was no trial.
And both of those individuals that you were talking about
This
have
is
no
gonna be
influence on
It'll
society.
make your head spin. They'll ask you,
Both
"Counselor,
of those people
was there
that you
a
were talking
jury
about
trial?"
have
Counselor,
little to no
Toby.
influence on society. Yet
Toby,
you
nothing you
ignore
realize is
what the
judge.
individual
Everybody is guaranteed due process of law. And the fact that you want to selectively apply it because it doesn't comport with your political preferences is a prescription for the very fascism that you advocate for. It shows that your championing of democracy is fatal in fact and in theory.
No, hold on a second, because I asked Sasha the question originally and everything, but how much do these influencers play a role in politics? I heard
Okay.
several people, including one of our own founders, that was raising this notion, and I know who she's talking about, of independents winning the election. And there are some people that would like no label to win, but I also agree with what somebody said, which it might have been Adam, that there is little to no chance of an independent winning because of the way that the system is put out there and everything. But are we ever going to see an independent win? And also, what is your thoughts as somebody looking at it from Canada and also from a past Eastern European background of how the elections in the U.S. are going, and aren't they influenced overly by influencers? That was my question and everything. But I'd love to hear your thoughts
I
around this.
don't
Sasha.
think that independents have any chance to win, at least not in the near
They don't.
future. Then the influencers, okay, if you will have equal amount of influencers on one side and then same on other side, so they will equalize each other and they will play no role at all. But I have a question to Adam and Nick. The Constitution, the paragraph 14, under which Trump is being
Article 14. Counselor.
at least tried to be removed from the ballot. Do they require this article that the man has to be tried and convicted so then he could be removed or not?
Well, there's a Fifth Amendment dealing with due process of law. In other words, when it comes to any sort
Where is that requirement? How does it read?
But it reads how
No
the
person
justice-
shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
He's not deprived of anything. If he is removed from the ballot, he's not.
Here becomes the question, and I've been in front of these judges. They're what they call hot bench. They'll ask Counselor Jacoby a question: was Donald Trump ever convicted of insurrection by a jury?
Is conviction required by Constitution before removing somebody from the being elected?
Can we go back to the Fifth Amendment? Can you repeat the Fifth Amendment, please, Adam?
No.
Why the Fifth Amendment has to do
Sasha,
with
you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Yes, there is due process required before a criminal conviction. The problem
But
with the
but
Colorado
there's we are
Supreme
not
Court's
discussing
decision,
criminal conviction.
I
We're not
understand.
discussing.
I understand your argument, but
So
the
then
problem
why?
is that the 14th Amendment says that Congress, I repeat, Congress is responsible for enforcing that clause, including the insurrection aspect of the 14th Amendment, which means that states do not have the authority to make any adjudications relating thereto. It is a textualist and originalist argument. It says Congress shall enforce the provisions. States are not Congress, and that in and of itself will lead to the overturning of this by a 9-0 Supreme Court decision.
So you're telling us that this
Just
the people in these states, Colorado and Maine, they haven't read that constitution, so they acted on their whim. They decided that okay, we feel today like why
But-
don't we
hold on.
remove
Yeah,
Trump?
yes, exactly, Sasha. That's why you had Roe versus Wade.
wait. Let me
That's
ask.
exactly right. And that's
What
why it's
happens
going to be
if the
overturned.
Secretary of State
It's a
of,
joke of a
Florida
decision and a
Hold on,
disgrace to the
wait.
legal
Can
profession.
I jump in?
Congress,
Sasha,
not the
Sasha pointed
states.
out a great point that he asked the question, and I've watched many legal shows at this moment ever since this has started coming down from Colorado and all the other places. But so far, it hasn't been tested that it is a legal requirement, because then you go for the states' rights issue, which you're saying that states don't have the right to make their own laws. But right
Yes,
now, it goes
right.
for the Supreme Court itself to figure out, because states can now, at the point, are trying to decide on how this is going to be adjudicated or
And
how
I
this is
can, I,
going to be
can, I
judged.
can tell you
So
on
the
good
Supreme Court
authority
has to come
that it
in.
will be
So
overturned.
therefore,
And
what
I'll
you're
leave it at that.
saying is that wait,
It's gonna be
let
overturned.
me get to the point. Let me get to the point. So
It says Congress shall enforce this
what
provision.
I've seen, can I finish?
Sure, Counselor, go ahead.
I'm not
Thank
so
you.
sure I want you to finish
Wait,
because the language
here we
is
go.
so
Let
clear.
me ask the question. I can't even get to the question.
And that's
because
why,
he's so
Sasha, that's why your
adamant-
question about
adamant
due
against
process
me asking the
kind of
question
missed the
because
point of
Adam
what
was
the
afraid
problem
that
was
I
with
might
the
be
decision.
adamant and correct. So I'm sorry, Adam. You could be wrong on this. I just want to ask the question so we can follow down this rabbit hole. So, according to the scholars that I've seen, and you guys aren't the only legal scholars that are out there, but according to, and I can bring up the other documents as well. And this is why I think Sasha asked the question as well, because he may have seen the same thing that I have seen and read the same thing I have. That is it a requirement for them to take them off the ballot? So, and then that's a state thing, a states' rights thing, because it is a ballot in that state, so they're handling their own.
Congress is
judgment.
given the exclusive enforcement of
Does
it.
Congress handle all the state elections? No, thank you.
That's
So
not the
let's move on,
point.
Council.
The point is
Let's
that the
move on,
14th
Council. I gotta
Amendment, when it
finish. I
comes to
gotta finish.
insurrection,
That's
that's so sort of.
finish, Adam.
So
I'm
you
gonna
ask the
finish.
question, I try to answer it, you interrupt me, and you claim
I
that you're
didn't even
being
get to
honest.
the
You didn't get to
You're
the
being
question. You didn't get to
democratic.
the
I
question.
didn't even get to the
Providing by
question.
fact.
I didn't get to the question. I didn't get to the question yet. You're already jumping in. I know you're eager.
Oh my gosh.
I know you're eager.
Look,
But
guys, this is getting
so,
to the
so
point
my
of silly.
question is,
It
now
really
we're going
is.
again.
And for this show to be engaging in this kind of silliness,
Yeah, because
Well, he had a
won't
question
Really?
he was trying to get to. You're trying to question he's trying to
so
get
what
to.
I'm trying to ask
is there any
now, what I'm trying to ask is similar to what Sasha said, because Sasha was talking about how it wasn't a requirement and it wasn't established yet. And however, the 14th Amendment was dealing with more so congressmen, and the presidency itself wasn't even included in that amendment, which I was shocked that you guys didn't point out yet. However, so would it be, because the way these decisions are coming down by state to state deciding it, wouldn't this be venturing into the political realm?
and 19 states have dismissed this.
I haven't
already.
even finished the question. Wouldn't this be
Well, I
venturing
mean, I don't know where
into-
the question is,
No,
but
then
when
we go
people
again.
ask
I'm
questions, they
trying to
ask
get to-
questions.
I'm
They don't go
trying
on
to
some
ask the
preamble that has
question,
nothing to do with the
I'm trying to
Constitution.
ask the question, but you wouldn't even let me ask the question. I know you're adamant against what I'm trying to say.
Yes,
But
I
okay.
know.
Now, the question is, doesn't this push the courts more so into the political realm instead of the judicial realm, the judicial nonpartisan realm, due to the fact of the court itself being stacked by Trump appointees, it leaning Republican heavily, So doesn't it venture that, or especially even being perceived as being political?
You should read a book called Act of Liberty by former Justice Stephen Breyer, in which he says when the Constitution is ambiguous, you reach results that encourage democracy and democratic participation. But here, that's not even the question. It says Congress is responsible for enforcing the 14th Amendment's protections, particularly related to insurrection, and that ends the inquiry. States don't have the jurisdiction or the authority to do so. I've said it 3 times now. And like I said before, if anybody wants to know what an LSD trip is like, watch this show.
Yeah, I know. Because
Adam, I have a question. What do you do for a living? Adam, what do you do?
What do I do for a living? I'm a lawyer, I'm a professor, and I'm a writer.
Okay, I'm asking you a simple question about politics.
An absolute Elvis fan. Elvis, wherever you are. Yes?
Do you teach constitutional law by any chance?
Yes. And I've written over 70 law review articles in constitutional law in 2 books.
Have you written articles on constitutional law?
I asked a question if it's going towards.
I've written over 70 articles. I've written 2 books. One of them is right here. It's called Repairing American Criminal Justice.
Buy it. It's like $170. I would have bought it. Okay.
Is it going to the political realm based on their judgment?
Give you the rest of the day because you just.
What do you mean by that question, Jacoby? What do you mean by that question?
Again,
Is what going to the political realm? The court's decision? Yes, and that's the problem with it.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the Supreme Court decision that will be coming down because they're going to have to.
No, see, you don't get to pull that logical fallacy where the Supreme Court getting involved to correct an obvious injustice, therefore makes it political. It was made political in Maine and by the Colorado Supreme Court with an interpretation of the text that has no basis in reality.
No, it's based in the Constitution.
No,
that's what they have based their judgments on is based in the Constitution. They cited
Can we bet on this? I mean, I wish we had something on betting on this. I would bet heavily.
Here we go, Nick. Here's a bet. Here's a bet.
I can tell you without going into great detail that the Supreme Court's going to overturn it.
You can jump in this bet too. We'll bet on this. We'll bet right now.
There's not much I like to bet on, but
we will bet. We will bet, Nick. For a month.
If I win, you buy me a flight to North Carolina. That's the bet.
For a month, we will trade paychecks.
I'll bet against you.
For a month. If the Colorado decision and the Maine decision, don't look it up now, if they were or were not based on the Constitution.
I can't take that back because I would not do that to you.
Are you betting with
lose? And I wouldn't do that to you. That's not fair to you.
Are you betting with Nick or Adam? Because
I'm with them both.
Oh, this is one of the rare cases I agree with Adam.
Okay,
because they can look it up right now and see if the argument from Colorado and if the argument from Maine were based in the Constitution.
The answer is no. They were not based in the Constitution. They were based in a complete manipulation of the Constitution, just like Roe versus Wade was when they invented law out of thin air.
What did the Maine
I'm not
argument
taking your paycheck. I'm not going to do that.
What did the Maine argument say?
You deserve better than that. Sometimes you have to be a little bit.
My bet is
wait. We got a bet on the line here.
This is going to be overturned by the Supreme Court of the United States.
Counsel,
I know it's going to be overturned.
Did the Maine argument say?
I'm not answering your question about what the main argument said. I could care less what the main argument said.
Maine was just a 34-page ramble by Secretary of State.
What was it based
I read like the first 10 pages and I couldn't get through because it was so poorly written.
No. Was it based in the Constitution?
It was based on nothing.
No, it wasn't based in the Constitution. I don't even know what you mean by when you say based in the Constitution. What does that mean? Based in the Constitution? I mean, based on a reasonable interpretation of the text? The answer is no, because it says Congress enforces this provision, not the states. And that is ipso facto the end of the story.
No. I'm just asking.
You know what? After this show, I'm not going to North Carolina because you people are officially weird.
Yeah, but again, you won't answer the question.
I am declaring you all officially weird. I'm not going to North Carolina. I'm going back to Georgia. But
Maine,
you're all strange.
Like Georgia's not weird.
You must be part-time vegans or something.
On what? Let's see. The main argument. Let's see. The main state decision.
But Jacoby, I do think you're a nice guy.
consent, follow that.
North Carolina is not exactly the brightest bulb in the states.
But Maine is even worse. Okay, the total population of Wake County.
They need to take North Carolina right now after this show and dump it into the Atlantic Ocean.
No,
Maine has a total population for the guys 1.3 million. The population of the research.
The U.S. Constitution does not tolerate an assault.
Just by
Wait a second.
The Secretary of State of Maine is a bloody idiot.
Oh my gosh, hold on. Did they just say in the Maine decision, Maine Secretary of State ruled former President Trump disqualified from holding office and appearing on the Secretary's ballot based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment?
Yeah.
And you guys said that it wasn't based in the Constitution?
We're saying it was not.
Man, I need better lawyers on this show because y'all
Can I interject
That's
something here?
made.
I want to interject something here, and I want to add something, and I have two lawyers here who could probably back me up on this statement. But all the laws that are made in our country are, when they're written, they are made to be interpreted by the judge and how he wants to deal with it, or whoever is dealing with it. They use words like may, can. Nothing is definitive in the laws. Am I right, Nick?
How old does the president have to be to run for the
So the
presidency?
Constitution was written, and these leaders who wrote it said, and it should be adjusted and amended, as the future moves forward to accommodate the needs of the people, as you grow and become something else. There was no binding to it 100%. And if you look at majority of the stupid laws, the ones that want to manipulate the people as if it were just pure propaganda, there is no consequences written with the
That's
law.
factually inaccurate. I'm sorry.
No, but
That is
Kim,
true,
but
and that
Kim,
is
just hold a
accurate.
second, because
The president must be
Especially in
35
North
to run for
Carolina.
office.
Hold on a
Where's the
second, Adam.
discretion in
Hold
that?
on a second, Adam.
Especially in
Because
North
I've always been
Carolina.
told that there are certain laws, and
No
correct me if I'm wrong, both you and Adam, you and Nick, to Ken's point, I've been told that there are certain laws that are uniform laws that they will never change, and that they are pretty much concrete laws that are not up for interpretation, and all in that space. That comes to your point that you brought up, Adam, because I would think that that would be one of those uniform laws, because you have to be, I think it's 35 or above to run for president. You have to
Mark,
be a
you have
U.S.
to
citizen
remember
and
who writes
everything.
the laws.
So my question is, am I correct
they
in
will
thinking that
never
there are
make
some
them
laws that are
definitive.
uniform laws and there are other laws that are open for interpretation? But I'm asking the two lawyers and everything. But am I correct in thinking that there are some laws that are uniform laws?
No.
Well, I don't know.
Absolutely not. There's no uniform law
laws.
because each state can make
What
the
I would
law
tell you-
any way they want.
There's
There's no
some
uniform.
objective and there's some
No.
subjective laws that are out there. But here's the problem with the Maine decision in general, and the reason why it's going to get
Lawyers
tossed
write them.
faster.
Come on, give me a
It's gonna
break.
be tossed. It was made. Now, first of all,
Maine.
Maine is a very small state, 1.3 million
Maine.
people. The city of Raleigh and Durham have more population than the entire state of Maine. The Secretary of State, sua sponte, holds a decision, a hearing, which means the Secretary of State of Florida could hold the same hearing and toss Biden out. Think about that one. The case will be tossed pretty quickly because the Supreme Court justice will ask question: has he been convicted in a trial by jury for insurrection against the United States? And the answer is going to come back no. Really, without notice, opportunity to be heard, and a formal conviction, they're going to throw it out. But there's so many different other ways they can throw it out. The only question is, which way is this thing of Maine going to get tossed? And we can add the same thing to Colorado, because just look at it. If not, every state could go toss out Joe Biden. Why not? In other words, the thing is, they say, well, his son and him were conspiring to defraud the U.S. government and provide insurrection. So we're going to toss Joe Biden. So it's not going to be upheld. The only question is, when is it going to be tossed? So I agree with Adam. If there was a betting pool in Supreme Court, which there isn't, but if there was, like Las Vegas, I would throw a lot of money that this thing is going out the toilet. And I think so would every other attorney in the United States.
They
Period.
cannot constitutionally take anyone off a ballot. I mean, we've had people on the ballot in prison. So, I mean, and, you can always write in, and, nothing's saying that all of the Trumpettes are not going to group together and go write in a vote. And
Yeah.
nobody can throw that out.
But what they're saying is
That is against our constitutional right to vote. You
What they're
cannot
saying is
take our
that-
right away. Period.
yeah,
I'm not
they would not recognize him as a candidate, and they convicted of insurrection by a hearing sua sponte with the Secretary of State with no notice opportunity to be heard.
Doesn't matter if the people
That's
vote
not gonna-
him in. If he ends up
Nick
with
is correct.
majority of the people's
He's
votes,
right.
he should.
Yeah, Adam. I mean, anybody who goes to law school,
He's saying it.
figured this one
But
out.
Kim, the people have voted in folks that did not win according to the count, because that's the whole
I
notion
know,
of
but I'm
one
just
man, one
saying,
vote, and everything along those lines. But now we got the electoral college. There have literally been a few cases
which
where
I wish we would
popular
do
vote
away
was not
with.
the person that actually won the election, because the person
If
that
we're
had
doing a
the vote-
resurrection against, or something against our country, we should do that to get rid of the electoral vote. You know what? Because that's not what the people want anymore. The people want what they vote for, not what our stupid idiot morons in office want, but what we want. And that's what
The
we need to
Electoral
do.
College protects small
gonna
states and
fix
gives
the
voice to people
elections.
who otherwise wouldn't have one.
To me, that's a triggered election right there. That is a triggered election. Electoral vote, that's a cheat. That's a cheat. Because the last two times the people's voice didn't matter. So
So in
and I know
2016
that's
and in
Happy New Year's, and may we enter the new year with better minds, better
I would just,
hearts.
you know what, Adam? If this does go from the Supreme Court, you and I should go up to the Supreme Court, and we could, because you're when you're admitted before you get to go through the bar, you can actually sit next to the Supreme Court. It's kind of a cool thing, just to listen to the oral arguments. Counsel.
Yeah, you get to sit like in the front row.
You can sit on the front row, which is pretty cool.
I don't know if there'll be an oral argument though in this case. I think they're just going to toss it.
Really? Wow.
No,
Now you
'cause-
do-
they'll have to be, again, that's why I asked the question, because I mean, I'm in agreement with you guys that it probably will get turned down, but I'm asking the question about the political realm due to the fact of the way the court is stacked. And
Oh, yeah,
actually,
of course.
and,
Of course,
and
Joe
actually have-
Biden had his opportunity to unstack it, and he didn't do
Well,
it.
Jacoby, the argument that you're making basically is an argument that says the judiciary should never have gotten involved in the first place. And that's why Colorado Supreme Court should have never said this, because
I disagree that
That's
they
the-
have to.
your
get
argument
involved.
proves too much.
No,
Has
what I'm saying is
anyone-
I'm arguing that they need to get involved, but I'm pointing out the fact of the political view that will come from this. They needed to get involved due to the fact of Trump's transgressions, not the fact that, oh, well, we got to let him go because he's president or he's running for president, because then we're stating that
In
the
2000,
president- we're stating that the president is above the law.
in 2000, no, the
never
president's not
was-
above the law. The president is entitled to due process,
court
which
has
he
to
did
get
not
involved.
receive here in this
Well, the
administrative
president
hearing
is
and
too
these
above the
spontaneous
law.
decisions.
I mean,
And
The
in
president is
2000,
disgusting as he wants.
the answer to your
and-
argument is that the judiciary should never have gotten involved in the first place to avoid all pretense of
then you're saying
political
the Trump,
considerations.
you're saying
That is what the
you're
argument
saying
is.
that the judiciary should never have gotten involved. Then you're saying that the president is above the law. Right now, the
Because
man
it's a
has-
political question. Look at the political
not-
question
It's not a
doctrine.
political question. The problem is that he was indicted for, or he has 4 indictments sitting against him. He was impeached twice. He actually did sit there and actually help plan and put together, because all the documents are there.
Says who?
in
You?
terms of what he did with January 6th.
Convictions and impeachments.
No,
he
I'm just
won
pointing
both of
out this when you
Oh, yeah.
take it, when you take all this information to a trial, and then somebody finds you
I
guilty.
mean, geez, if we remember the Central Park
Well, I'm
3,
just saying-
they were accused.
all
People
I'm
thought
just
they were
saying-
guilty.
All I'm just saying, and this is why, I'm trying to get it through to you guys, because you guys are adamantly against it, because, oh, it couldn't be, because, oh, well, let's not touch
Because
this.
we believe
No,
in fairness,
it
even
is
for ones
fair.
we don't like.
It is fair.
True.
If you're saying that
It's like we
cannot
tolerate
touch
speech that we don't like. We don't. The Constitution
Again,
doesn't
yeah,
depend
that's
on if
fair.
you like some
That's fair. Again, that's why I'm not the one who's
or
on
agree
this
with them
panel
politically.
saying
It applies
that,
to the
hey,
Constitution.
I'm
or
not
democracy.
the one on this panel who's repeatedly said that racists should not be allowed to vote. That's you. I'm not on the panel who said
that's correct.
hey,
I did say that.
should not be
And
allowed to
that's
vote.
because there's a compelling reason for it, because rights
There
are not
isn't a compelling
absolute,
reason.
but
There isn't a
procedural rights
compelling reason.
are, and that is the right to due process of law.
Fairness.
Racists
and
deserve due
equality.
process, and every other person
I'm
does.
about
because that's
fairness and
called
equality,
equality
even with the ones who I do
and
not
equal
like.
protection of the law.
And the thing is, Trump himself has done some bad things. Trump himself should face justice for those bad things and have a trial for it.
Give him the opportunity to face justice before you take him off the ballot. Don't put the cart before the horse.
Good point.
Well,
Again,
and we always
It's in the
try
Supreme
to
Court.
say
It's in
we should
two
do
different
that. And people are always unfortunately misjudged before they're judged. But we're at the top of the hour, and I want to do a little bit of promotion. We are coming into the new year. I'm so proud of Pod TV and everything that we have done and accomplished this year. Some of the conversations are things that people will never approach on any other network because of, who promotes the other networks. And that leads me to, we have to spend a lot of money to provide a lot of this content. The tools are not free. Please help support us by going to our store. Also, we have a bookstore now, and the money that goes from that bookstore helps pay for the directing of this content. But the books in our bookstore are authored by majority of the people we've interviewed on Pod TV, or Nick and I have interviewed, or some of our great panelists and hosts. So please help support Pod TV by going to podtv.tv, go to our stores, and go to either our bookstore or our store. We have some beautiful items now. I think Nick has a coffee cup. There you go. And so help support us, and thank you for participating in our viewers chat column. We appreciate it. We will try to get to as many people as possible as they post, and we're just very honored that people have chosen Pod TV as the network to watch. We now have 3 channels, and thank you, and Happy New Year's.
Are we signing off now, Kim?
Well, if we want to sign off, we can.
Okay. All right. We'll see you next year. I'm not going to go
next
back
year.
here after this argument until next year.
Well,
See you
Nick, are we showing Monday?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. We'll find out.
All right.
He knows everything. See you next year.
See you next year.